can tell her, you can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Yo, what's up? It's your girl, Father Longlegs. You know me, Daddy T. This is You Can Tell Me Anything. It's the podcast where comedians confess something they want to get off their chest. You guys know what it is by now, I hope. I feel like I still have to say it, though, because it's just podcast rules. You can't start a podcast without introducing the podcast. Just as you can't let the guest talk before you introduce him. So let me introduce the guest right now. He's so patiently waiting. I'm so excited to have on the podcast today. He's the host of Fight Island and Werewolf Radar and a Twitch Better Than Heroes. A Twitch. I said a Twitch.
It's a Twitch.
That's how non-internet fluent I am. He hosts a Twitch stream on Better Than Heroes, and here is a tweet I enjoyed from him that says, I have learned to draw 3 body types: hot lady, hot guy, some kind of lobster-like creature. It's Jordan Dahl. What's up?
Hello.
I like to sometimes read tweets, and I like that one because it's just like it's the right amount of silly and also like confusing that makes me laugh, but also go, I don't know if I'm laughing for the same reasons you wrote that.
That's my brand. The impetus behind that was for this for the Twitch. I'm on a Twitch.
For the skits on the Twitch.
And we do a D&D game every week, and I draw a different like piece of art for the D&D game, and I was finding myself drawing the same types of body types, and I specifically was like, how do I draw like a little weirdo? I want to draw a little weirdo. And there was no YouTube videos for it. And it was like, it's hot lady, hot guy, or monsters. That's it. Those are your options.
Oh, that's so funny. I used to draw, I feel like I used to draw a lot of like anime hot ladies. Not like, well, I feel like when I say that, it's because as an adult, I'm like, that's a category of porn. And that's not what I mean. I mean,
sure.
I mean, as a child, like what's hot to a child is very innocent, but it'd be like big boobs, basically big boobs. I draw a lot of big boobs.
Well, and it is, there's a long history of artists celebrating boobs and celebrating the 3 body types: hot ladies, hot guys, and monsters.
You know, that's totally true. I feel like the Louvre is full of boobs, and it's a lot of times just looks straight up like porn, and I'm like,
there are those 3 wings of the Louvre.
I'm like, are we sure this is art? Like, I like it, but like, are we sure we're not just hanging porn on the wall? Like, some of it is just like, these look like orgies. Like, these just look like they hired a photographer, like the equivalent of a photographer to hang out at a party and take promo pics, you know?
Yeah, because I gotta say, this is great art and everything, but it's also pretty hot. And you gotta
Sir, you have to stop jerking off in the Louvre. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there a bathroom?
But before we get, I'm already having fun. Before we get too into it, I do want to start with a good confession, just for a way for the audience to get to know you and have a positive start. So, is there something good you want to confess?
I got a twofer.
Ooh, okay.
I got a twofer. I had a weird day yesterday. I was just a quarter turn off of my wavelength. Mm-hmm. I lost an entire recording of a podcast because my microphone was off. It was a heater too. Everybody was on point.
Ow.
The riffs were flowing, and then later that night, I played some video games on the Twitch. I raided the channel over to a friend's channel, and then I left the camera on for 15 hours.
Oh, so you recorded it?
I recorded the whole thing.
Wow, that's great. That's like
this morning, I had to wake up and come out half asleep and like, oh hi, sorry, goodbye everyone.
Were people watching?
There was 2 people still watching.
Wait, but you recorded? Did you got the podcast on the Twitch though?
Right? No. These are two separate disasters.
Oh, I was gonna say that would have worked out so well if you had like accidentally recorded the whole
if I
thing.
had picked it up, could you imagine?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying, and I was gonna say like, I think you might be psychic. Like the universe is on your side. But I
wish
take
I
it
could
back.
have. All of the Guy Ritchie style twists in my life are against me. They're never for me.
Well, it's an unconventional good confession because it would sound like it's bad, but I feel you're so positive that I really feel that that's the good part, is how well regulated you are and how very much I can tell that you are just like a very easygoing guy. Like that would make me cry.
Like
I would have quit comedy, you know? Like I would have been like, this is it. This is a sign. God doesn't want me to do this, and I'm done.
Luckily, it was like I have this. My wonderful girlfriend has let me turn our closet. I don't know if she let me or made me think that it was my idea.
She's locked you in the closet, is what you're trying to say.
Locked. I've been sequestered to the closet for sure. But we have this door that I close, so it was just the inside of the closet all night. But I was definitely sleeping out there, 2 feet from it for like 12 hours.
That's like
ridiculous.
like I feel like that's like my fear always is like after I get off Zoom, I always like I'll close it up, but then I'll also shut the computer just in case I forgot. But it's like
totally. It was a true nightmare. It was, and then Nicole came in to do some voiceover stuff in the morning, and she saw the screenshot, the last shot of me in my skivvies turning off.
That's so funny.
I took a picture of it, and now it's on Twitter.
I love that. That's so funny. Nicole has also been on this pod. Great episode. Check it out. But since we're talking about regulation and going with the flow, I kind of like got inspired to make this podcast because I started going to therapy late, and it's like I felt such a huge relief when I was able to like actually just like talk about shit that I repressed. So I like to ask guests what is like your way to sort of like cope or deal with, you know, stress. Like if you have a confidant, do you go to therapy? It doesn't have to be, you know, specifically like I do this treatment, but just kind of like how do you cope with stress and that sort of thing?
Sure. I also came late to therapy. I started going to therapy only 2 years ago, maybe, when I was living in Hollywood, and got a medication figured out, and that helped a lot with anxiety and stuff, which I also was juggling for years and years.
It's so cool how that can, like, it's like you hear over and over. I started meds just last year, and like people keep saying it, even on this podcast, about how it changed their life, and I'm like, it's okay, crazy. And then I'm like, oh yeah, oh duh, oh okay.
It's wild. It's I'm super pumped that I found something that worked, you know, because I know a lot of people who you know haven't found something that worked for them. It's been a real struggle, and I'm like, oh, you got to keep trying, because boy, when you hit something that just kind of pulls that weird weight off of your shoulders, you're like, oh my god, I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's like almost like you're underwater, but then you think like you're getting by because you're breathing or whatever, and then some. I don't know. That's a bad metaphor, but I'm with you. No. I love that.
I get you.
Yeah, that's so great. Totally. Congrats on finding a thing that works. And I want to reiterate that to people who are listening, the idea of like what you said about keep going, because I think. Yeah. Whenever I talk about therapy, I don't mean like this is the be all end all. Like it does. I've gone through shitty therapists, and I think the idea is like if you're trying and you can take breaks, but as long as you're recognizing that like you know things can change. It might be hard. It might take a while, but that's
it's like it's never, you know, what works for one person might not work for another person, and certain types of therapy work for other people. And it was like. Actually, because I've kind of gone from, obviously everybody has, you know, now I do Zoom meetings, and it's just kind of checkups every once in a while because I started drawing about the same time, and kind of became like one of my big kind of meditative, like doodling with some you know, Simpsons or Earl on in the background. Boy, I've been digging through My Name is Earl.
I went to like an art therapist briefly, and she was actually a child art therapist. But I found her because like it was like specifically I was like looking for a grief counselor, and I saw that she did that. But then I also was like, I want to try something different, and so she took me. But it really, I mean. I wasn't sure how it would work at first because I was like, I'm not an artist, but it's not about that. Like, you're literally just like, you said like meditative. It kind of gets you out of your head, and you're like able to like open a different sort of part of your brain where you can process things.
A lot of people do coloring in the same way. When people are like, I'm not so much of an artist, but it's that same kind of vibe of just like, just fill in those lines. It's great. I
wonder if like tattoo artists ever just start tattooing themselves because they're like,
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? Some of them start on pork chops.
Oh, really? Whoa.
Yeah, you'll get they'll get like a shank of a pig with the
Oh
skin
my
still on it.
God.
They'll tattoo it.
Whoa. I guess that makes
heard-
sense to practice on. But that,
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm
And
not
then
sure I
I
feel
s-
positive or negative, but it definitely
I
makes me
ass-
feel something.
I assume they eat it afterwards, but there's got to be that fucked up moment where it's like, was this pig a Sagittarius? What is this tattoo all about?
What? Who's this pig's mom? He has a tattoo about his mom.
This pig has a lot of Stussy asses tattooed all over him. Yeah,
That's so
I like
funny.
those.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get your confession. And we are back. Oh my God, what a fun break. That was wild.
It was incredible. I went for a jog.
Yeah, I can tell you're sweating. Do you need water?
So sweaty. Yeah, this actually is water. I fell down.
That's true.
Spilled my bottle of water. I didn't get far.
Okay. Well, Jordan, hopefully we'll get further in this confession.
Surely.
I am notoriously very bad at transitions. But Jordan, is there something you would like to tell me?
Yes. So I thought long and hard about this, and do I go with a joke confession? I decided no. There is something that has been bothering me for years and years, and there's any number of minuscule social foibles I've made from being a straight white dude and not knowing better and saying stupid shit that I wish I could take back. But ultimately, the thing that I keep coming back to is there was a kid in high school. I'm not going to mention his name. He was a very funny kid, young kid. We would make videos together. We'd make sketches together. Good friend. He ended up getting way into drugs and long story short, that ended up triggering some other stuff, and his life kind of spun off the track.
Oh, no.
And I was the one who introduced him to cocaine, which was his drug of choice. I was pretty lucky. It was for me. It was just never got its fangs into me. It was kind of like let's have fun on the weekends. People in my hometown would freebase cocaine. They were smoking crack. It's trailer park crack.
Where are you from? Colorado originally?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so that was we actually came to Denver one weekend and we were like, let's get some cocaine, and we smoked some of it, and that was his jam. And I've always felt really terrible about it, and I've never really told him because we don't really talk anymore. But I've kind of reconciled it with myself in the terms of like, if it wasn't me, I would have been someone at some point. He would have come across cocaine. And I know that I didn't force it on him or anything. I wasn't like, you're going to do this. Mm-hmm. But I was definitely there, and I was like, hey, we're going to be loading guns and shooting them at our lives and seeing what happens. And I felt bad about it. I still do.
I'm so sorry to hear about your friend. I think that it's like cool that you can talk about it, because I also realize like sometimes like we hang on to these guilty things, but you're
Sure.
totally right. It seems like you have you're sort of like in that place where you have a good awareness of like the truth, but also you're aware of how you feel, like the irrational part, and it's a good thing to like look at both, because it's not like just knowing that of course it would have happened or whatever. It doesn't just make it go away. Just like the life is complicated.
Yeah, perspective. What a fucked up weird thing.
Well, I mean, the reality, I think it, like, you do know this, but yeah, obviously, it's not one person. It's everyone's responsible for their own. Sure. I'm not like sober now, but I went because I ended up going to like trauma therapy and realizing a lot of it was coming from like more PTSD. But I was like, I guess sober. I don't know if I should say sober. I was like going to AA for like over a year and like not drinking, but
Hollywood sober.
Yeah, I was Hollywood sober, and a lot of sort of the like teachings, I guess. It's really all about like letting go of control, but also only controlling what you know. And I feel like that really resonated with me, because so much of, I think, addicts or people who have a tendency to like try to escape into lifestyles want to find control, but also
Yeah.
to the point where you're trying to control like in a guilty way, like, oh, if I did this differently, other people's lives would be better.
Sure.
And I think that's
Sure.
like one of the hardest parts to let go.
Yeah, it feels like this weird anxiety of trying to untie some gigantic knot that simply cannot be done. You know, it was just tied too long ago.
Yeah.
No one
Well,
remembers.
I'm curious. So you guys were in high school, or
We were in high school, yeah.
I'm curious about because it seems like it's not unusual to try drugs in high school, and it's definitely not something that people always relate. Like, I tried it with X person, and that they connect it. But I'm curious about the when you guys were actually trying it, like, were you what was the dynamic of friendship? Like, were you the one who was pushing, and did he say no? Like, it seems like you held on to some sort of like responsibility.
Yeah, you know, it definitely was like I was like, we're going to the city, and I was kind of the I'm kind of the I was kind of the Mario. He's kind of the Luigi.
I'm like, I know those characters and I know that game, but I can't think of how that applies.
Okay, what's
Is
a
that
better?
just like the main character and the side?
Yeah,
Okay.
what's a better fiddle second fiddle relationship?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if is Mario like a hardcore party guy?
Mario loves blow.
Probably. They're plumbers. Like, what are they running from? Like.
Down in those pipes.
Oh my gosh.
Running from Mario. Where are you running from?
Okay, I get you. Like, you were like you were like the friend who kind of like came up with the ideas, and he
Sure. Yes. Yeah. I was kind of pushing the. I was kind of driving the. I literally drove us there.
Was
like,
he
we're
like
gonna go party.
resistant, or did he seem to like enjoy?
Not really.
Okay.
It was definitely the first time he had encountered that. I was like, we're gonna do some cocaine, maybe, or no, it was more like we're gonna party, we're gonna smoke weed, kind buds, because we were smoking swag, you know. We'll get a bag of kind bud, we'll drink beers, who knows, maybe we'll even do some coke. And he was like, what? And it was like, I was like, yeah, maybe. And he was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, well, you could try it if you want to, or you don't have to. I remember being specifically like maybe we'll do this or maybe we won't. And I remember him being resistant, but then ultimately I remember him like trying it of his own volition.
How did you feel like when his reaction was like, it seemed like you were definitely trying to, for yourself, like experience something in a way that's like, this feels badass. Were you expecting were you expecting peace in a pod, like he's down, or were you surprised that there was a line for him at that moment?
Yeah, I was surprised that there was a line, and I was surprised that, because like the next day he was very much like, that fucking sucked. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that ever again. And then like turns out that he did like a bunch.
Gotcha.
And that was the problem.
But you didn't. You didn't pressure him again. I mean, it's okay if you did.
No.
I'm just curious because it's like
No,
I
no,
really
no,
hear
no.
so much like.
No,
I know
it's
you
just,
now, and it seems like there's a lot of details in this that I'm curious to unpack, because it
Truly,
doesn't seem like you were like, you better,
No.
which would be okay too because you were young,
No.
but it doesn't
No,
seem.
it's-
It sounds like
it-
almost opposite, yeah.
It truly wasn't that, and it was very much like we were in this phase where it was like, well, let's experiment with drugs, and I was like, I've done it before, and it was fine. We did a half a bump, and we stayed up until 1 o'clock, and listened to rock music, and it was cool, and it, like I say, it never really got its fangs into me, so I kind of thought it was this fine thing that was it was fine to flirt with, you know, it was fine, like, oh, let's dust it up a little bit on the weekends, and this was truly the first time that I had ever seen it have such a visceral, what I would later learn to recognize as like, oh shit, you love this. This has really struck a chord with you, and now you're at the beginnings of developing a problem.
What were you looking for because it sounded like you're like, oh, it wasn't that intense of an experience to begin with. So was there like a feeling of being cool connected to the drugs, or were you just like wanted him to be part of it?
For sure. It was definitely like the next level of like your coolness. You know, you've smoked cigarettes, you've smoked weed, you've tried acid. What's next?
And then I like that you like mentioned, because I think some of these things are like the things that we remember tend to really inform like what the memory means. Like the fact that you remembered you saying like, you don't have to, like almost like you. I don't know if you grew up with the DARE stuff, but I remember the idea of peer pressure was so hounded into our heads in a way that when in reality it's less, like most of the time I encounter people who are like, yeah, if you want, if you don't want, it's cool. But then,
these days, because like I've been through the wars with my addictions, and I don't drink anymore. I'm Hollywood sober myself. I'm actually I would say at Colorado sober. I smoke a ton of weed, and that's it. I've kind of cornered my addiction into this borderline manageable cannabis habit, and I'm someday it'll have to go, but these days it's fine, and like. I don't know. It was definitely like, it was strange to me that it wasn't easy for him to kind of just pick up and put down. I was like, I hadn't experienced that myself yet. Gotcha. So I was like, oh no, what have I done?
You felt so much guilt. It's like, there's some kids, cause it's so interesting because I think there's like, it sounded like you genuinely cared about your friend, but like, which it sounds, it's like, duh, but there are kids who really like, and I have to say, anytime we're talking about kids, it's like, I don't place all of the responsibility on them at all, because most of the time they are just given too much to handle, and that's how it comes out. But a lot of kids I remember in school that were more like pushy about it, like the actual peer pressure ones, were kind of like doing it to get that, to like watch someone like fold, and a lot of those kids I think were probably had experienced that, like feeling themselves. It's almost like that cycle of abuse where it's like, oh, you got pushed to do something you didn't want, so you want to push someone and watch their innocent get taken away. Right. But it sounds like that wasn't the case. So I'm curious, like, where was that feeling of responsibility coming from? It was just like, it was more like, because he was like my pal. He was like, best friend style. And I think these days I'm like, what could have been? He was such a smart, bright kid. Maybe he would have gone down the same path as me. Maybe we'd still be talking. Maybe we'd be writing scripts together. Maybe he'd be involved in comedy. We were making sketches together. How long did you guys keep in touch after that? Or was it pretty quickly?
We still talk sometimes. I'll like send him a message every once in a while, or get one on Facebook and be like, hey man, what's up? And then it kind of just fades off again. But it's like, I do feel this weird responsibility to it, and it's mainly just for the exposure. It was something that that it never even crossed my mind that other people wouldn't be able to handle at the time, because like you say, we're kids, we're growing up, we're figuring it out for ourselves. I tried it and I was like, oh, it's not as bad as everyone says. He tried it and it was exactly as bad as everyone says.
Well, did you ever talk to him about, like, when did it, because I mean, I'm sure it was like a little more gradual, but when to you did it feel like, oh, he's changed, or like he crossed a line that, like, that was different? The thing was like, you talk about the peer pressure, and it wasn't present in our situation, because like afterwards I remember being like, I'm kind of not doing like, I wasn't like a coke guy. It was like the type of thing where it was like every couple of months it would be like, somebody's got some cocaine and we're gonna have a cocaine party. You know what's interesting? You guys had, it almost seemed like you had different, like, I didn't even realize this until you said that, but different reasons for it, because you were talking about, to you it was like a thing to do tonight. Like, what do you want to do? Let's do a party thing. And to him, it was, the thing he wanted to do tonight was hang out with you. And so maybe in some, like, without realizing it, like maybe his brain was connecting, like, oh, if I like do something, it feels like I'm getting closer to this person or my friends. And then later, like we were all into punk rock, and he was, he like was into punk rock very performatively, so again in kind of this like I want to do what you guys do, but like better and bigger and harder. Gotcha. It was weird, because like I remember him withdrawing pretty quickly. He never, I wouldn't say he ever like pressured, like he didn't turn it around and be like, now you have to do it with me, you're creature, though that would have been poetic. But it, even today, like people don't want to give you their cocaine. Nobody asks you to give cocaine at parties. I know, that's why it's so funny. People aren't like, here, you want some free heroin? And you're like, they're like, can I have some money for heroin? I was trying to do a joke about that for a while, because I remember in Dare they told us like drug dealers will give you they'll give you LSD on a piece of candy. And that sounds awesome. Where are these drug dealers? I'm going to send my kids to pick up some of these drugs. It's like, no, they fucking don't. They charge you $5 a hit, and usually it's pretty bunk up here. Wow, that's cheap. I forgot you live in Denver. Yeah, right? No, that is. I think that's part of it too, because I was very much brainwashed by Jer, and like I didn't do any like. I think it is different the age for sure though, because you were in high school, and so in some ways I'm like, it's not about the drugs itself, but it's about the ability to discern situations. But because I was so scared of it, I didn't do anything till like I got my first job and I was like 22, and like that's pretty insane to be in New York and grew up in the Bay, never tried weed, to like be 22. And then
that is a huge task, honestly, and a huge undertaking.
But by that point, the illusion of fear faded, and it was just like almost like the Virgo in me, like my Virgo moon just being like, I must make this number bigger. How many more years can I go? And then eventually, it was just for the like literally to feel like I won. And then once you break the seal, you're like, there's a lot to consider. Like, it's not that drugs aren't bad, but they're not this. Like,
that's kind of what's so dangerous about like current drug laws and drug education is like they'll be like if you smoke weed, you might as well shoot up heroin. You might as well shoot yourself with a heroin gun because it's the same thing, and it's like it's not. You shouldn't. No, this is all confusing, and you're confusing everything. It's like
if you anything else, if you're like, oh, you got in a car crash, or like you got a little, love tap on your car, well, you might as well go run into a truck. You should probably get better at driving. You should probably watch the road, but you don't need to destroy your life.
Break somebody's neck. Why not? It's tricky. It's tricky out there, and it was a weird door to open to be like, oh well, if marijuana isn't as bad as they say, then maybe acid isn't as bad as they say. And it turns out that acid was pretty fucking weird, and it took me so many years of experimenting to find out that it's like I kind of don't. Maybe this isn't.
Yeah, you don't have to enjoy everything. Yeah, because it's like it affects. It's literally the idea of not even recreational drugs, even like medication, like we're talking about. They change your body chemistry, and everybody's body chemistry is different. Like there's no, there's like great art and whatever that explains it in a very romantic way. So people are like, I gotta get to that. But the reality is like you can't always match other people's experiences.
Yeah. I've had pals who specifically have tried to do that. Have tried to kind of fuel art in, to mimic some side of some sort of artist that they admired or something. And it's like it's not your path. That wasn't that's somebody else's thing, and you can't do it the same way.
Yeah. But so I'm curious about the setting that you grew up in, because it seems like Colorado is pretty like open to stuff like this, but was it hard to get like, were you like kind of like, the reason I ask this is because it really seems like you felt like you were the gateway. Like, were kids in your school really goody and didn't do drugs? Like, were you like kind of like thinking like nobody else would have?
There was definitely like a kind of an enclave of like stoner, psychedelic kids and their older brothers and the network of their friends who the kind of the rave scene kind of collided with the snowboarding scene, kind of collided with the skateboarding scene, and it all happened in a place where we had to go party in the woods.
Man, that
sounds
fun.
Hated us. And then sometimes the rednecks would show up, and they were our kind of arch rivals, and we were the skaters, and they were the rednecks, and they would show up, and we'd
like West Side Story in the mountains.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'd snap and walk towards one another.
The bear
I do remember specifically like being at a couple of those parties up in the woods where the cops came, and it was very much like a weird like 1920s like liquor raid. It was like,
God.
Cheese it, the fuzz is here, and we just ran into the woods, and
someone just dives into the snow like, and you just see their feet hanging up like a cartoon character.
Chess Warren, we never saw him again. They say he's still up there.
Oh my God, I'm like about to. Well, this podcast will come out before then, or will come out after them. But I'm about to go to Colorado just to snowboard. But I'm like, damn, I wish it was like. Obviously, everything's still closed to COVID. But I'm like, man, it seems like so fun.
We went to Copper Mountain when that big storm blew in. It was crazy.
Oh wow,
it was incredible.
I'm going to Breckenridge. I've never been. I'm excited.
Nice. It's pretty easy to isolate because you get your own room and you're up on the mountain all day. They give you your own your own chairlift, and you just wear a mask all day, and the conditions were incredible. I haven't been snowboarding in a decade.
Wow.
And I would say it was like riding a bike, but the next day, oh boy.
I am very bad at it, but I actually weirdly love how this is like such a weird thing, but I love the feeling of being sore after like snowboarding.
Absolutely.
It's so weird. I used to dance, and it's like I would then, I don't know, I think it's like the feeling that there has been progress or something has happened, because then I would go into the studio and like try to stretch, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sore, and then I'd be like, it's because I was snowboarding.
It's like
badly
or something. Yeah, I got that shit. I tweaked my shoulder. It doesn't work right today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had a follow up about like the later after your guys' friendship evolved. Like, did you ever talk to him about this? Because it seemed like you hung on for a long time. Like, or did you think about saying anything, or was it just...
I have thought about saying it. I think I have apologized in a roundabout way to him, but I don't think it really landed. I was also friends with his brother briefly. He lived in Denver, kind of was in kind of the rock scene when I was in the comedy scene, so our paths would cross every once in a while, and I'd be like, hey, tell your brother I hope he's all right. I think maybe in passing I apologized to his little brother, just like, hey man, I have always felt really bad about that.
Well, I guess more like what, because I don't know, I mean, did he ever indicate that it felt like you were connected? Like, it's sort of...
No.
This feeling of did he just kind of go off on his own path, or was he like trying to then hitting you up to be like, oh, do you want to party? And then you started being like, no.
I mean, it got a hold of him pretty quickly and kind of swept him off on a whirlwind journey of punk rock shows and dangerous encounters.
It seemed like it led him into another world. Like, maybe you did open a door, but it seemed like you don't open a door and then never go back. Like, there were chances for him to turn back to the door, and it seemed like he met a lot of other things that drew him in.
People who addicts tend to isolate, so he got new friends, and I got new friends, and I probably did my fair share of distancing from him once he became a hot mess, and it was like, oh man, that guy is off the deep end for sure. But
do you feel like in other parts of your life, like responsible for other people?
I do. I feel a lot of I assume a lot of blame for things where I don't need to, and I think it comes from like I just want everyone to get along. And like if I have to be, if you need to blame me, that's fine. Like I'm pretty good at accepting blame for things. And
are you a middle child?
We can do that. You know what? I'm a younger brother, but my mom remarried, which put me right in the middle.
Oh, interesting. I don't know that like I don't know enough about, like, I'm the oldest, but
sure.
I feel like I've heard like a lot more people I know who are, maybe because comedians like to talk about identity so much, because like I don't think I know any of my college friends like sibling rank. But a lot of comedians who are middle children often talk about how they feel like they're kind of the peacemaker, or like almost like you want to be like the one to make everything okay.
That's true. That is true. And it also comes from, I think there's this degree of like white knight syndrome where it's like if something's wrong, I can fix it, and then I'll be the one who fixed it. Did
it ever, on the flip side, work out that way before, like early on, or what made you feel like you needed to?
Boy, we would have to. We would have to flip through the Rolodex.
I'm super like generally like this is definitely like a newer quarantine thing for me, but like tracing old patterns and then going, because I do the same thing where I'm like, why am I doing this over and over? But then when I stop, sometimes I'm like, oh. Either if I go, I've done this 3 times and it's never worked, then I have to find a way to break it. Or I go, there was a time when it worked, but what was it actually that worked? Not the thing. Sure. Like there was, like maybe something else. Like it was. I can tell you for sure that I've definitely like I tend to take like an honesty is the best policy path, and like own up to it. Today I got called out. I got called out on Twitter. I'll say it right now. I unretweeted the thing. I was like, you know what? You're right. An unretweet. It was painful. Damn. That's a good attitude to have.
Sure. I think honestly, I it's something that frustrates me about other people. So I try to be like, dude, if you got to be the type of person who's like, when someone says you're wrong, you at least stop and go, am I? But I digress. I can think of a lot of times when specifically honesty has not been the best policy for me. It has shaken out a number of times, specifically in that period of my life when I was like, partying in high school or something, and the cops show up and everybody runs. There was this time when a cop was
you offered the cop cocaine.
No, yeah, that's why I'm still here. That's why I'm on the outside today. But he showed up and he was walking around being like, come out, we're gonna find you, we're gonna find you, and we're gonna ticket you. Just all your cars are here. And I came out and I was like, all right, hi, what can I do for you? And I sat down and he was like, clean up this trash, and we cleaned up all the beer bottles that were around, and he was like, and then get out of here. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right. Well, I mean, I came forward and I took responsibility, and the cop let us off because he had to go somewhere else. And, maybe honesty is the right policy. And then the next day he showed up to my house and gave me a ticket.
Damn. But this is so interesting because I feel like it sounded like from an early age you had this sort of like self-regulation of emotions that I could maybe relate more to that version of you now, but definitely not in high school. The feeling of like, even if it quote unquote didn't work out, like in a way it didn't work out by the fact that the cops were there. In that moment, you acting in your most authentic, honest self probably did work out in some ways. Like, if that makes sense. Like you, and maybe that's what's so scary about the friend story, because you genuinely didn't have that intention. And so there's a fear of like, oh, maybe you don't know your power. Like maybe you felt like as long as you know yourself and you're a good person and you're not one of those like peer pressure-y things from Dare where you're like, hey, smoke a cigarette, that you are on the right side, because we're taught in binary. And all of a sudden you realize like, oh, I know myself, but he doesn't know himself or whatever. And I cannot do that for him. And I can't fill in the gap. And therefore I might not have had all the information. Sure.
Or it's therefore something that I can't control, and that's, that feels like it's slipping away from me. And, it does feel like, so my parents got divorced when I was 6. There it is. And
good work. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not. It's not really therapy, but
that was definitely like. I was like, how can I fix it? Can I fix this? Is this my fault? Did I do something wrong? I'll fix it. And I think to this day, I try to, like, when somebody's like feeling bad, or like somebody hurt their feelings, or like even to the extent of like people being stupid on the internet, and I'm like, no, I can fix you. And that's why I engage with nonsense on the internet.
What happens if I don't know, I'm sure you've also grown and not done this sometimes, but have you actively, in a moment where you're feeling that, actively, like, almost like when you're working out, you have to go against what feels natural. Like, what happens if you actively go against that? Like, does it ever come back to bite you, or is it just like, oh, it's okay? Like,
no, I will say, like, any emotional regulation that I do happens is a very recent addition. So I don't know if I'm to the point where I'm able to catch myself doing it, but I've definitely been like, I shy away from being as outgoing as how can I help, as yes, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I find myself doing a lot more like just zipping it,
like avoiding a situation rather than jumping in the fire but reacting differently.
Right. And in a lot of ways it has paid off, because it's like then you kind of see how it plays out for some other dipshit who jumped in. And you're like, there he is, there's me.
That's interesting.
That's what I would have said.
Oh, sorry.
But then again, you win fewer battles if you stay out of them, so.
Well, I think sometimes it's this, it does make sense when you talk about parents, because there is a feeling like, as a child, life is kind of like right, wrong, win, lose, like very binary. And that's the easiest way, because you have to teach kids like, this is a bad person, this is a good person.
Oh, absolutely.
But as you get older, you realize it's more complicated. And
Yeah.
I do think like this idea of winning might be tripping you up because everybody, like, it's weird because like in comedy we compete against each other but are also friends. But the reality is like everybody can win, and it doesn't.
Sure,
and
that's true.
even though we're all against each other, it's not literally like one winner. And I think it helps me sometimes when I go, oh, like I might want this thing, but what I want is not in direct competition against what someone else wants. It might be like 80% in competition,
Sure.
but therefore I don't need to like create the binary. So there is a way for you to quote unquote like be in a conversation and still feel like you're being authentic and winning without feeling like you're responsible for the outcome of the entire situation, you know?
Sure. Is there? Good job.
But it is hard. I'm barely there, but I'm this pattern thing, I've recently been trying to do that more. Like my version is like more abandonment, but I get a lot of like I'll get triggered by just like abandonment. And in the past, like from family and other relationships in the past, it's been like more real because I'll like unknowingly seek that out where it actually fulfills. But now I'm in a healthy relationship where like my boyfriend's aware of my patterns. So when it happens, like when I get triggered and have PTSD, like it's way more obvious to both of us that I'm having it. But he's not like, oh, you're having, like he's there for me in a way that is at the moment so uncomfortable because it feels like I have to jump in a fire. Because my instinct will be like, normally by this time the person has pushed me away, so I don't have to feel responsible. But instead I'll have to grapple with like my instinct is to leave myself so that I don't get abandoned, or stay here and really not knowing if it will work out, like allow myself to be abandoned, and then through that motion in trusting find out that I'm not abandoned, and then every time it like slowly heals. And that's like super hard, but I almost feel like whenever you're up for it, like testing yourself when you feel like I gotta fix it, but don't not fix it and don't leave, just go in and go, let me offer what I think, but if it doesn't work out, it's not my fault, you know?
Sure. And if it doesn't work out, I'll say it's your fault.
Sure, that's fine.
You said.
Yes. Well, but it's like just like
because you said to do it.
What helps me sometimes is thinking like you feel responsible for all your actions, right? To the point where you almost feel responsible for other people's actions.
Sure.
But how would you feel if your friends, like, it's almost like it's not that you don't respect them, but I like to flip it sometimes and be like, in a way, you're saying like, oh, I don't respect these people to be autonomously say no to what I suggest because they're gonna do whatever I say.
But I mean, like, who hasn't been there? You know, especially in high school, who hasn't been with that cool kid? And I was very cool.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I was wearing a drug rug and Jinko jeans most of the time.
But maybe did you ever feel like you snuck by, like you did have that feeling where you did what the cool people thought and you were okay, and that's why you're like, hey, the fire's not actually hot, come on, and then they get burned and you're like, oh no, like,
totally. Well, and therein squats the responsibility. You told the person that this thing was safe and fun, and it's like, oh no, but not for you. Oh, not like that. And then there's spaghetti everywhere.
Man,
never
clear. There's so much here. I really love. Thank you for sharing this.
Of course.
I want to say, as Teresa, like obviously continue going to real professional people, but I want to exonerate you from responsibility because
well, thank you.
Even hearing the details of this, even if you had been a real jerk, and trust me, like I have comedians on this, so sometimes they just tell a story and they are a jerk, and I'm like, okay, well, you were 8, it's fine. Like, let's talk about it. But in this situation, it really feels like you genuinely went through a fire that didn't burn you, and you genuinely liked your friend and wanted your friend to come to the other side with you. And I think that's what hurts, is that you in your heart were wrong, but not because of your friend, and how it is viewed by society is totally different, and you didn't have the information. And so
you're definitely right. That is it is the survivor's guilt of it, and I think at this point I have mostly exonerated myself. I still have a finger in the book, but that's, at this point, I don't hold it on my shoulders. I'm like, when he gets better, when he figures it out, maybe he already has, somewhere down the road, we will meet, and I will be able to tell him when we're both in our sober minds, hey, listen, I'm really sorry about that, and I've always felt bad about it, and I don't think it's my fault, but I'm sorry that I opened that door for you. I didn't want to be that person, you know?
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll just as a friend like to hear from you, not because of the apology. Because I think it's like it'd be insane. I mean, sometimes I think about like, okay, what's my worst fear? Like if that was true that you did that, like imagine if you said that and then he was like, yeah, I've been waiting. I kept doing drugs because I was like, if Jordan doesn't apologize, I'm gonna do more drugs. Like that would be insane. But that's sort of like the way like. If what you think is true, that is how that would play out, and it's like that would be insane if that happened.
It's obviously not that, but at this point it's been like if you get better and you're in a place where you realize that it is your responsibility, then we can talk about addiction and how fucked up it is and what crazy days those were.
And by default of you existing, you're in a way like a pillar for. I mean. I don't know if your friend is aware of where you are now, but like even other people, I know you're a comedian and you're in the public eye by default of you having this experience and sharing the story. Like you are kind of teaching other people who may have like be at the beginning of that. So
boy, here's hoping, huh?
Well, thank you for sharing that.
I know I wouldn't have listened to me.
I wouldn't have listened to me. That's the thing. Like so I think sometimes we're on a weird journey. But I'm so glad you shared that, and thanks for getting open.
You.
I want to end with a quick game. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay, it's sort of like inspired by Fight Island,
Nice.
which is your podcast where you make up imaginary fights. But
Absolutely.
This is called Emotion Fight.
Yes.
I've given up on making creative names, but
I like it.
It's real simple. It's really abstract in that. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense because it doesn't have to. But I'm just gonna. It's kind of like a fake Would You Rather, but there's two different like specific emotions, like X versus Y, and you just decide which one would win. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. So I guess whatever your ranking system is. Go by it.
I was built for this.
Yes,
I'm ready.
I love it. Okay, and maybe if we have time at the end, I'll have like a final round for the bracket since it is March Madness. Okay, here's the first one. Okay. They're really specific. Just change into pajamas and your friend texts you to come to a dope party versus woke up in a panic that you missed your alarm, but it's Saturday.
Ooh, God. Oh, okay. The alarm. Nothing beats the almost sorcerous relief that washes over you, and you can sleep for 1,000 more years.
There's also a little bit of shame in that moment. You're like, God damn. But I like that. That's great. Okay. Next one. It's your turn in karaoke, but you can't think of the name of the song you want to sing versus you're on stage, but you can't think of the rest of your joke.
Oof. Oh. These are two virile, horrible fighters. Both insipid in their own rights. I think the more deadly of these two is the joke. You can't remember the joke. I have stress dreams about that. It's just you up there. It's just you up there. The karaoke thing, you're out for a fun night. Who cares? You're already 2 margaritas deep.
It is like
it'll all work
that's
out.
So funny. I would go because I feel like I love karaoke, but always, especially like when you're out with comics or like in these like late night ones, the line's so long that I'm like, no, like I have one shot. But the joke one's also like, because it's like in the middle of it. It's not like you can just do another. You're like, God damn it, I got abandoned. Okay, your rival became a genuinely good person before you versus your hero became your friend and needs you more than you need them.
Oof. These are really good.
Or bad. I don't know which it is.
No, they're good. They're good. It's good when it's hard to decide. You know what I mean? I gotta go with the first one because it requires less emotional labor from me, and I can see them and go, yeah, good for them, and walk away.
Yeah, because you end up being a good person in it too. It's just they speed up your growth because you're like,
whereas
damn it.
The other one is like, oh, God damn it. Patrick Warburton, I can't keep having you over for dinner every night.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, I think I agree with you because it's like, it's only fun to meet your hero and know that you're about to become friends, but once you're friends, you're like, it's different now. I like you as a friend, but you're no longer my hero.
Yeah, that person is dead.
Yeah.
A new person has grown in their place.
I murdered you. Okay, accidentally stepped on your dog, not like in a painful way, but they went, versus accidentally keyed your own car.
Oof, the car. I couldn't do that. I can't. The sound of her little squeak if I stepped on her. I can't undo that.
Same. I wrote this today because I was giving my dog a bath, and the water was too hot, but I didn't touch it before. Like, I was just kind of in a rush, and I dipped him in. And he usually doesn't like the water, so he was doing his little like paddle. But I dipped him in, and he was like scrambling more than normal. And I realized a second too late, so he squealed, and I took him out, and I was like, oh my god, and I felt so bad.
So hard.
Like,
it's so hard.
It was so yeah, and he was like,
it's so gnarly.
And I was like, oh my god, no.
It's so weird how our brains react to pets. It almost is like I can see how people like couples will get a dog first and then be like, we should get a child, but because having a dog was the first time my brain was like, I will protect this thing with my entire life. I will fight anything.
And they don't talk back, which is nice, and they can't do podcasts about you, which is also nice.
That's true. Although I will say, in the fiction of our apartment, I have started the fact that Harmony, our dog, is a huge Joe Rogan fan because she's uninformed, and it was the first one on the iTunes chart, funny. So I downloaded it.
Wow, that's Harmony's accent. It's like a Long Island
she
medium.
Like. She sounds a little like from Edith Bunker from All in the Family. Oh, what she?
I love German Shepherds. I guess for that, that's such a rant. I'm like, for those who don't know, their dog is German Shepherd. Okay, here's the last one. This one's they're both good. Okay, remember to bring your lunch to work that you prepped the night before versus got a job offer on your way to a job interview.
Ooh, See, that job offer to the job interview, that will buy many lunches to come.
True.
And when I'm imagining the scenario where it's like, hey, they want to meet with you, I'm like, oh, great. And then on the way, they're like, hey, we want you for this job. I'm like, oh, what a day it is. I could realize that I forgot my lunch at that point and be like, who cares? I'll buy an army of lunches with all my new job money.
Yeah, that's the kind of confidence that I think you can't. Yeah, because it's like you got it. Like you're walking in and you don't need it, but you're not gonna not go. So
that's exactly what it is. Blowing in with all the confidence of a fallback,
That's maybe, I should provide a service where people just tell me exactly what time their job interview is, and I call them right before, and I'm just like, hey, I've got an offer, or like just leave a really encouraging voicemail. And then after I'll be like, just kidding, but like, did you mail it? Did you nail it?
Listen, you got it. We want you for this job.
And it backfires. They're like, I don't need this fucking job. And then I'm like, oh, no.
At the interview, fuck this.
It's like, no, that was just shit.
I'm going to be the new head of Marvel Studios. Figure's out.
I'd like you to be the president of the United States. What? Okay.
Yes, I knew this would come through.
MTV, suck it. Okay, I don't know why I made the job interview happen at MTV.
Everybody's getting interviews at MTV.
Well, that is the end. This was so fun.
So fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Jordan, where can people follow you, listen to your podcast, watch your comedy?
Oh, geez. I'm on the internet as Razor Lou all over the place. I'm Twitter, I'm Instagram, I'm Twitch these days, twitch.tv/Razor Lou. Sometimes I leave it on all night and you get an unprecedented peek into the life of my closet. Man. And also, Mondays, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, twitch.tv/Better Than Heroes. I play Dungeons & Dragons in space with a bunch of other comedians. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Yeah, tune into that and listen to follow you are listening already. Follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod. Follow me at Larissa T on Twitter and Instagram. And I'll post all the emotional fight choices that Jordan picked on the Instagram. So you can check that out. Yeah. Thank you.